G'day everyone, Rune here, and this is chapter 13 of my What If Ash Met Meowth First series. In the last chapter, I explained why Charmeleon isn't a jerk in this series. Then we saw Ash help Cassandra evolve her Paris as thanks for her healing a sick Meowth. We then saw our team meet the Jigglypuff, which had become a major pest in canon, but here became one of Brock's Pokemon. Then we witnessed the events of Grandpa Canyon, this time with Gary playing a key role, not only catching both himself and Ash some fossil Pokemon, but also helping to save Ash from becoming Aerodactyl food. We ended this chapter with Ash becoming the caretaker of a mysterious egg. This is where the next chapter begins. Taking a quick break from their journey, the gang decide to stop off in a park where Pikachu takes the opportunity to climb an apple tree while the rest of the team look over maps, relax, or in Ash's case, check on the mysterious egg that they'd found. After about an hour of rest, everyone's attention is drawn to Pikachu, who's having trouble speaking and looks to be in pain. Ash, worried as ever, asks Brock where the nearest Pokemon Center is, only to be told there isn't one for miles around. Then we'll just have to improvise. With that, Ash takes off towards a hospital that he remembers them passing on the way to the park. After arriving at the hospital and the initial confusion of whom the patient is, Ash manages to convince Dr. Proctor to look at Pikachu by saying that Pikachu is a part of his family. This surprises Proctor, who comments that Ash is a rare breed of trainer before agreeing to at least try. After they manage to get the thing out of Pikachu's throat and see that it's an apple, Ash can't help but ask how Pikachu managed to pull that off. With Pikachu now doing better, Proctor tells them to head home, only for them to become involved in an emergency situation, that being a traffic accident involving many Pokemon. So many, in fact, that the Pokemon Center can't handle them all. After Nurse Joy tells Dr. Proctor to save the flirting for after work, Ash can't help but grin. Oh, I like her. When Proctor tells them to change into hospital uniforms and help him with the incoming Pokemon, Ash doesn't even bat an eye. He simply grabs the uniform and goes to get changed. Coming back mere seconds later, and seeing that Brock and Misty still haven't changed themselves, Ash tells them to hurry up before asking Proctor what supplies he'll need to be ready. After Proctor tells him what he needs and where to find it, Ash is off once again, leaving behind a stunned Proctor. For one so young, he's awfully serious. It isn't long before their patients start coming in, the first of which being a Cubone. Seeing the Pokemon panicking, Ash quickly calls out Gloom to use Sweet Scent. With the calming smell in the air, Ash is able to calm the Pokemon down with some gentle reassurance. After Proctor examines the Cubone and states the treatment, Ash hands Cubone over to Misty, who takes it easily. Impressed, Proctor comments that the two of them make quite the team, which earns a happy grin from each of them. After several more Pokemon, Team Rocket is brought into the emergency room with their Arbok. Upon seeing Ash and his friends, they freak out, only to be surprised when Ash simply tells them to go sit near the door and stay out of everyone's way, before turning back to Arbok. After watching Ash help Arbok for a minute, the two ask why Ash isn't yelling at them or demanding to know why they're there. To which a slightly annoyed Ash tells them that the reason they're there is obvious. Arbok is hurt, so they must have been caught in the traffic accident. And while he's not yelling now, he will if they keep bothering him while he's busy. A little while later, Brock and Ash are attempting to calm down a Dodrio, while Ash is lamenting that Gloom is with Misty in another part of the hospital. This, like in canon, results in Proctor accidentally getting stuck with a needle full of anesthesia. Just as Proctor falls asleep, Bulbasaur walks in, having heard the commotion. Happy to see his Pokemon, Brock tells Bulbasaur to use Sweet Scent to calm the Dodrio down. Surprised, Ash asks when Bulbasaur learnt Sweet Scent, and Brock explains that after seeing Gloom use the move so often and with such proficiency, he decided it would be a good idea to have Bulbasaur learn it too. After that, we have the montage of the team helping the injured Pokemon, and Team Rocket trying to capture the Pokemon. Only this time, Ash is neither surprised nor worried. When Misty asks why, Ash smiles. Because they're going to fail. We won't even need to step in this time. His comment is soon proven when Arbok and Weezing refuse to fight Chansey, which a newly awake Proctor explains is because the Pokemon remember Chansey helping them. From there, things play out as in canon, with Team Rocket getting run off by their own machines, and the group politely turning down Proctor's offer of an apprenticeship. Though Ash says that it might be something to keep in mind for when he's older. Continuing on their way, the gang soon come across a small sign reading "Missing" with a photo of a little boy who looks exactly like James. As if on cue, a long limo pulls up next to them and they're approached by a butler who asks them if the photo looks familiar. After they say yes, they are quickly carted off to the estate of James's family. After the confusion of the doghouse versus the actual mansion, Ash is thoroughly exasperated. I will never understand rich people. After the situation involving James's running away and his parents' will is explained, is when things take a sudden turn. Upon hearing that James's parents said he needs to marry a specific person within 24 hours, Ash gets a look in his eyes that his friends have quickly come to associate with danger. I'm sorry. Could you run that by me again? Ash rails against the idea of forcing someone into a marriage against their will. While he doesn't like James, or any of Team Rocket, he can tell that they care about each other. James is happy with them, so Ash won't help the butler force James into a life that will only make him miserable. With that, Ash turns on his heel and stalks out of the building, his friends on his heels. Once outside, Misty tells Ash that what he just did back there was very noble, and Meowth pats Ash's head, saying that Ash really is a good egg. They are soon startled by a teary-eyed James rushing up to Ash. Reaching them, James clasps the 10-year-old's hands and thanks him for standing up for him. He also explains that he doubts that his parents are actually dead because faking their deaths is just the kind of stunt they'd pull to try and trick him into coming back. However, Jessie and Porygon are still hell-bent on getting that inheritance money, and so do their little puppetry stunt. From there, it's as canon until everyone gets dragged down into the dungeon. While Brock says that they should stay out of it, Ash gets up and sits on top of the crates that they're hiding behind. Then, crossing his arms and leveling James's parents and Jezebel with his coldest glare, he gets their attention by shouting for them to stop. With their attention now on him, Ash snaps at them that what they're doing is not only morally wrong, but completely against the law. It's illegal to force someone into a romantic relationship, let alone a marriage. James's parents tell him that this is a family matter and none of his business. Besides, Ash is just a child. How would he know what's legal and illegal? And even if it was, there is no way that the police would listen to a little kid over one of the richest families in Kanto. At that comment, Ash turns his scary factor up to 11, while Misty complains about no one knowing to take the hint before Ash gets mad. Waking up his ex-transceiver, Ash turns to James's parents with a smile that promises evil. You willing to test that little theory of yours? I have the police on speed dial. Smash cut to later, the gang are walking down the road away from the mansion with Ash still laughing loudly over the looks of complete fear on the faces of Jezebel and James's parents. As he finally manages to get his laughter under control, Misty says that she's surprised that Ash stood up for James like that, especially after all the trouble that Rocket have put them through. Shrugging his shoulders, Ash simply states that wrong is wrong no matter who it's directed at. Just because Team Rocket is a royal pain in their butts doesn't mean James deserves to be manipulated and caged. Meanwhile, over with Team Rocket, Jessie and James are talking about how scary Ash was acting when dealing with James's parents. Jessie is still feeling chills. You know, perhaps we've been going about this the wrong way. How do you mean? James points out that they've never been able to beat Ash in a single battle, and even when they use more sneaky methods, he manages to foil them. He's also got a knack for finding rare and powerful Pokemon and bringing them to his side, which is part of the reason why they started following the Twib in the first place. And now they discover that he has the ability to be a level of intimidating that could rival their boss. If they could recruit him into Team Rocket, not only would they be getting all of Ash's Pokemon at once, but they'd be bringing in a new member who's sure to impress the boss, and by extension, they'd get into the boss's good books for bringing him in. Back over with the gang, Ash lets out a loud sneeze and absently wonders who might be talking about him. Sometime later, the events of So Near Yet So Far-Fetched occur, which I can't think of any major changes for except for one. When Ash and Co confront Keith, Ash doesn't just yell at him for stealing. This time, Ash shouts at Keith with tears in his eyes that Keith isn't just taking food or personal items, he's tearing families apart. This has an even bigger effect on Keith, who had never thought of it like that. After that fiasco, Ash and Co stop off at a small town where Ash decides to give Professor Oak a call at the local Pokemon Center. When Oak answers, Ash is happy to see his little Dratini there to greet him. Smiling, Oak asks how Ash and his friends have been doing since Ash's last call, and Ash gives him a rundown of events. Smiling, Oak says that he's also been getting updates from Gary too, and he's happy that the two boys have started getting along. Ash jokes that all it took was him being targeted by crooks. After giving a hearty laugh, Oak says that he was actually planning on calling Ash himself, as he'd just gotten permission from the International Regulations Council to give Ash's Pokédex the Johto upgrade. This has Ash very excited, as it means he won't have to keep digging his cards out of his bag all the time. A little later, the team is in a little diner discussing where to go next. However, Ash is only half paying attention, much more preoccupied with checking over the egg he'd found in the last chapter. Noticing Ash's distraction, Misty asks what Pokemon Ash thinks will hatch from it. Ash says he doesn't know, as his Pokédex cards don't have pictures of the Pokemon eggs. That's an entirely different set that only came out a month ago. And the Pokédex wouldn't be able to tell them, as it doesn't have them listed either. He's already checked. After some more discussion, it's decided that they'll head back to Celadon so Ash can have his rematch with Erica before heading on to Cinnabar. That way, both he and Misty will be on the same page and they can head straight to Viridian and then Cerulean. As they're leaving the diner, they're accosted by Jessie and James, who are dressed up as a pair of camp counselors. Just as they're about to try for an elevator pitch about their Pokemon training / Team Rocket recruitment camp, they're cut off by Ash greeting them casually by name, causing them to fall over comically from shock. Getting back to their feet, they ask how Ash had seen through their ironclad disguises. To which Ash points out that their disguises is just their uniform painted green, the R replaced with a T, and a green hat. It's not that subtle. He then asks what their big idea to steal their Pokemon is this time. A camp where trainers and Pokemon sleep in different cabins. Rocket says that that actually sounds like a good idea, but not this time. They explain that they're here to make Ash an offer he can't refuse. Join Team Rocket. They explain that Ash is a strong trainer, and the only other person they know who could be as scary as he is when mad is their boss. They tell Ash that if he joins, he could easily rise through the ranks and become a top member, ruling over other members of Team Rocket. He'd have the power to destroy towns with the snap of his fingers. Ash just looks at them like they've lost their marbles. Who would want that? Them, apparently. Ash tells them that he is not and will never be interested in joining Team Rocket. Grinning, Jessie reiterates that this is an offer Ash can't refuse, and activates the machine that they disguised as a table to capture Ash in a large metal ring. As Ash is jerked away from his friends, Meowth and Pikachu fall from his shoulders while his Pokeballs fall off his belt. Seeing that, Ash grumbles a mental note to himself. Memo to me. Clips on belt are broken. Get them fixed. Gathering up the dropped Pokeballs, Meowth, Pikachu, Misty, and Brock take off after them. At Rocket's cabin in the woods, Jessie and James tell Ash not to even try to escape. To which Ash huffs and says that he's not stupid while keeping a protective hold over his egg, which he'd managed to hold on to. To himself, however, he thinks that he would probably be able to get away from them without much trouble. But he doesn't want to put the egg at risk. His best bet is to sit tight and wait for the others to find him. The next morning, as Team Rocket are making breakfast, the cavalry arrives and busts in. During the ensuing battle, Ash sticks to a corner of the room out of the way so that the egg doesn't get caught in the crossfire. After Meowth and Pikachu blast Rocket away with a Dark Thunder, the group all rush up to Ash to ask if he's okay. Smiling, Ash tells them that he's fine and that they're just in time, as the egg is about to hatch. Shocked and excited, everyone sits down to watch the egg hatch. After a few more seconds, it hatches, revealing the Pokemon to be a Togepi, which immediately sees Ash as Misty hadn't snatched the egg away like she did in canon. Seeing the little Pokemon, Ash recognizes it instantly as a rare Pokemon from Johto and wonders how in the world its egg ended up in Grandpa Canyon of all places. After Misty asks what a Togepi is, Ash hands her his Pokedex while he checks to make sure Togepi isn't hurt. Togepi, the spiked ball Pokemon. Its shell is said to be stuffed with happiness that it shares with kind-hearted people. Togepi will imprint on the first thing it sees, believing it to be its mother. Or father in this case. Misty asks Ash if he's going to catch it in a Pokeball, to which Ash vehemently says no. Togepi is just a baby, he couldn't make him battle. Ash is going to hold off on officially catching Togepi until he's older. Of course, you do realize this means you now have 3 Pokemon you gotta carry around. I don't know. Maybe some Pokemon could stand to start walking. I think you're getting a little flabby there, Meowth. Hey! And that, everyone, is where I'm going to leave the story for now. Join me next time as our group go hunting for a Murkrow, Ash gets his long-awaited rematch with Erica, and they encounter the Master Photographer. I'm Rune. See you next chapter.